I still can't wrap my head around this, and honestly, I don't think I ever will. This happened last December, and it's the reason I deleted every anonymous account I ever had. I was 23, fresh out of college, working my first real job as a data analyst in Austin. Like a lot of people my age, I spent too much time online. Reddit, Discord, some darker corners of the internet I'm not proud of. I never did anything illegal, but I'd lurked on forums that existed in gray areas. That's where I found the Nightmare Santa thread. It was on a forum I won't name, buried in a subforum about real-world games. The post described a service, completely anonymous, where you could pay cryptocurrency to have someone delivered a Christmas surprise. The post was vague about what that meant, but the replies were filled with people claiming they'd used it to prank friends, fake kidnapping scares, creepy packages, that kind of thing. Looking back, I should have known better, but I was curious and a little drunk on cheap whiskey. I submitted my own address. The form asked for basic info, address, phone number, and a fear profile. Questions like, do you live alone? What time do you typically go to sleep? Do you have any phobias? I treated it like a game. I answered honestly. I even laughed while filling it out. 2 days before Christmas, I received a package with a no-return address. Inside was a single piece of paper with a handwritten message. He sees you when you're sleeping. I thought it was funny, part of the experience. I posted about it on the forum, and people congratulated me on being brave enough to try it. Then, I got the second package. This one contained photographs of me, taken through my apartment window. One showed me at my desk. Another showed me sleeping. The final photo was taken from inside my apartment, the angle unmistakable. Someone had been standing in my bedroom while I was unconscious. My blood went cold. I called the police immediately, but they couldn't do much. No fingerprints on the photos. The package had been dropped off by a third-party delivery service that couldn't trace the sender. That night, I installed cameras, checked every lock, and slept with a knife under my pillow. But at 1:48 a.m., I woke up to my phone buzzing. A text from an unknown number. Naughty boys don't get to sleep tonight. I was frozen. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Not outside. Inside. Slow and deliberate, coming from my living room. I grabbed my phone and locked myself in the bathroom, hands trembling so badly I could barely dial 911. The dispatcher kept me on the line, but the footsteps stopped. Just silence. For 20 minutes, I sat on that cold tile floor, hearing nothing. When the police arrived, they found my front door wide open. No signs of forced entry. My keys were still on the hook where I'd left them. But on my kitchen counter, there was a new note. Same handwriting. Thank you for playing. See you next Christmas. I moved 3 weeks later. Changed my phone number. Deleted every online account I could remember. I've spent the last year wondering who that person was, how they got in, how they got my information. The worst part? I gave it to them willingly. Every detail they needed to find me, I typed it into that form myself. This happened 2 Christmases ago, and I still don't have a single smart device in my apartment. I know that sounds paranoid, but after what I found out, I don't think I'll ever trust them again. I was 26, living alone in a 1-bedroom apartment in Seattle. I worked as an office manager at a small marketing firm, and after a rough breakup that fall, I decided to invest in making my place feel more like home. I bought a smart doorbell, a few smart plugs for my Christmas lights, and one of those voice-activated speakers everyone seemed to have. The setup was easy. I connected everything to my home Wi-Fi and created accounts using my standard email and a password I'd used for years. I know, I should have known better. But like most people, I didn't think anyone would bother targeting me specifically. The first sign something was wrong came about 2 weeks before Christmas. I got a notification on my phone around 11 p.m., motion detected at my front door. I checked the doorbell footage and saw a man I didn't recognize standing in the hallway. He wasn't at my door specifically, just standing near the elevator, looking at his phone. I figured he was a new neighbor or visiting someone in the building. I dismissed it. But then I got another alert at 1 a.m. Same spot. Same man. This time he was facing my door. Not approaching it, just looking at it. Then he walked away. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe he was drunk and got off on the wrong floor. It happens. The next night, another alert. 12:47 a.m. He was closer now, standing directly in front of my door. The camera caught him for about 15 seconds before he turned and left. His face was partially visible, mid-30s, average build, wearing a dark jacket. I started paying attention after that. Over the next week, he showed up 6 more times, always between midnight and 2 a.m. Always just standing there, sometimes for a few seconds, sometimes for almost a minute. He never knocked, never tried the handle, just stood there and left. I reported it to building management, but they said they couldn't do much without evidence of a crime. The police said the same thing. Standing in a hallway isn't illegal. They told me to document everything and call if he tried to enter. What I didn't realize was that he already had access to more than I knew. 3 days before Christmas, I noticed something strange in my smart speaker's activity log. I'd been reviewing my purchase history on Amazon and stumbled into the voice history by accident. That's when I saw them. Dozens of audio recordings I hadn't made. Clips from conversations in my apartment, phone calls with my mom, me talking to myself while cooking, even audio of me sleeping. But the recordings weren't triggered by the wake word. They'd been accessed remotely. Someone had logged into my account. My hands were shaking as I checked the login history. There it was. An unrecognized device had accessed my account from an IP address I didn't recognize. It had been active for almost 3 weeks. They had access to my doorbell footage, my voice recordings, my routines. They knew when I left for work, when I came home, when I went to sleep. They knew I lived alone. I changed every password that night, enabled 2-factor authentication on everything. I also did something I probably should have done earlier. I looked up my email address on a breach-checking website. My credentials had been leaked in a data breach 8 months prior. My email and the password I used for nearly everything were sitting in a database anyone could buy for a few dollars. The man in my hallway wasn't some random creep. He knew exactly which apartment was mine because he'd been watching me through my own devices for weeks, learning my schedule, confirming I was alone. I called a friend and stayed at her place that night. When I came back 2 days later with my brother, we found something that made my stomach turn. The deadbolt was still locked. Nothing was disturbed. But sitting on my kitchen counter was a small gift box wrapped in red paper. No tag, no note. Inside was a USB drive. I never plugged it in. I gave it to the police, but I never heard back about what was on it, or if they ever identified the man. I moved out in January. New apartment, new email, new everything. I don't use smart speakers anymore. I don't use smart doorbells. I don't even use the same password twice. Because whoever he was, he didn't need to break in. I gave him the keys myself. I just didn't know it. I'm 34 now, but this happened when I was 31. Christmas Eve, 2021. I've never told anyone the full story because I still don't understand all of it. But here's what I know. My wife and I had just installed a new home security system. Cameras, motion sensors, smart locks, the whole package. We had a toddler at the time, our daughter Lily, and we wanted to feel safe. We lived in a quiet suburb outside Denver, the kind of place where people don't lock their doors during the day. Christmas Eve was perfect. We put Lily to bed early, wrapped the last of her presents, and fell asleep on the couch watching holiday movies. Nothing unusual. Until 2:14 a.m. I woke up to the sound of our smart lock disengaging. That distinct electronic click. My wife was still asleep next to me. I grabbed my phone and checked the security app. The front door had been unlocked remotely. My heart stopped. I hadn't done it. My wife's phone was across the room, still charging. I immediately relocked the door through the app, then pulled up the camera feed. Nothing outside. The porch was empty. I started to think maybe it was a glitch. These systems aren't perfect. But then I checked the activity log. The door had been unlocked and relocked 17 times in the past hour. Someone was testing it. I woke my wife, whispered what was happening, and told her to get Lily. She was scared but calm. We had a plan for emergencies. She'd take our daughter to the master bedroom and lock the door while I called the police. But before I could dial, I got a notification. Motion detected. Backyard camera. I pulled up the feed and saw him. A man, standing at the edge of our yard, just past the motion lights range. He wasn't moving. Just standing there, looking at the house, at the camera. He was wearing a Santa hat. I called 911 immediately, gave them our address, described what I was seeing. The dispatcher said officers were on the way. She told me to stay inside and not engage. Then the man moved. He walked slowly toward the back door, not running, not rushing, like he had all the time in the world. When he reached the door, he looked directly into the camera and smiled. And then my phone buzzed with an automated message from our security system. Back door unlocked. I hadn't done it. My wife hadn't done it. But someone had access to our system. Someone was inside our network, watching us watch him. I ran to the back door, grabbed a baseball bat from the closet, and braced myself. But when I got there, the door was still closed, locked. The app said unlocked, but physically, the deadbolt was engaged. The police arrived 4 minutes later. They searched the yard, the perimeter, even the surrounding streets. No one. No footprints in the thin layer of snow. No evidence anyone had been there, except for one thing. On our back porch, placed neatly on the welcome mat, was a small wrapped gift. Red paper, green bow, a tag that read, "For Lily." Inside was a photograph of our daughter sleeping in her crib, taken from inside her room. We moved before New Year's, hired a cybersecurity specialist who found that our system had been compromised through a vulnerability in the manufacturer's cloud server. Someone had been watching our cameras for weeks, maybe longer. We never found out who. We never found out why. But every Christmas Eve, I stay awake until sunrise, watching the door, waiting for that click. Because whoever he was, he knew our daughter's name. He knew which room she slept in. And he wanted us to know that he could get in whenever he wanted. He just chose to let us go.